The changes on the late front are strong as the wind provides, as the Chicago Bears are making wholesale changes for 2026. In the NBA, the Chicago Bulls Tank A Thon takes another pause as they steal a win from the Valley of the Sun, defeating the Phoenix Suns by 2 points last night. In baseball, the World Baseball Classic is on the way. Do you care? Me personally, I don't. But ESPN makes you want to care about the top 100 players they had come out the other day. We'll give you our thoughts on that list coming up. That and the Illinois final line basketball team, at least the men's side anyway, their regular season comes to an end on Sunday when they take on Maryland. And it's the return of our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika, her third weekly shenanigans, and a whole lot more. As you stick and say right here on Second City Sports as the Friday fun starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, dragged into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! Robert Jr., his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edmund back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide. Up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Giddy, what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Motions up. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb throws. Middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to the Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you better hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid. I've given LaKeena full powers to give you fools to build and be a beaut.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE, live entertainment game. And checking us out live in the living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:19 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay. Also at Sports on Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Our numbers are keep going up and up and up. As you very well know by now, you know our motto, where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will will provide.
We'll be providing you with some of the best here on Second City Sports. As always, we'll get to the last official week of the college hoops regular season, as some of the big teams, the big conferences, you know, your Big Tens, your Big 12s, your SECs are all finishing up, and the Big East are all finishing up their seasons. Also, of course, we'll even preview some of the smaller conferences. Their tournaments are already beginning right now. Our girl Christine Mack from KXRB will give her thoughts from sports media news. As speaking of March Madness, CBS and Warner Bros. Discovery announced their tandems for March Madness on the men's side. We'll talk about that. Also, of course, there's a few other changes as well. Speaking of, they're ready. I'm talking about CBS and Warner Bros. Discovery with their merger. Now they're ready for to keep their partnership in the NFL going. We'll talk about that. Also, the Blackhawks, you guys probably forgot, but the NHL trade deadline is today. And the Blackhawks, they've been pretty busy making some moves, getting rid of some veteran players, which as expected, but we'll get to that and such. Of course, the Bulls Tank A Thon. Well, it took a hit in the Valley of the Sun as they lose to the Suns. Beat the Suns, I should say, last night. We'll talk about that and the rest of the week in the NBA, including another milestone for LeBron. So much more. But first, Sid, we'll start with Bears and the NFL. Even still, with the new league year starting next week, the Bears have already been pretty active. Well, okay, let's start this because I want to make sure I get this right chronologically. You had Drew Dalman, the center, the All-Pro center, the Pro Bowl center, announcing his retirement unexpectedly or expectedly, if you talk to some people. All right, then they trade DJ Moore to Buffalo for a second rounder. Okay, and then just last night they released Pro Bowler Tremaine Edmunds, saving $18.5 million in cap space. They now have about just a little over $32 million in cap space right now as we're recording this. And there may be some news coming down the pike. Could it be for Max Crosby? There are a couple of O linemen that are on the market that now they need, and so much more. But Sid, what do you think about all this crazy stuff that happening with the Bears this week?
We knew there was going to be some activity coming out of Hallis Hall leading up to next week's start of the new league year, but the Drew Dalman retirement really came out of nowhere, in my opinion, because Drew Dalman played every snap for that Bears offensive line last year. He was the anchor of that offense, calling signals to help out starting quarterback Caleb Williams. He seemed healthy, but then, life happens, things happen, so he decided to retire. Good luck to him on that. Now, the second move, the DJ Moore trade, I think many of us thought it was going to happen, but it wasn't going to happen. Now, I think the surprise move in that situation was DJ Moore going to Buffalo because Buffalo was not in the rumor mill of acquiring his services. Everybody thought, well, it's the Las Vegas Raiders because the Bears are trying to get Max Crosby. We'll touch on him coming up. But for Buffalo, it gives them a number one receiver for 2 years. Josh Allen has a number one target. He has had various bust number one targets in his career. Now he gets a valuable one in DJ Moore, who's going into the prime of his career. So that's a great move for them. And the number three move, as you mentioned, the release of Tremaine Edmunds, that was expected because, remember, some of these guys that are on this team right now were on this team. They were from the Matt Eberflus era, and Tremaine Edmunds was one of them. Now, he did his job like he was supposed to when he was here, but the way that Ben Johnson and defensive coordinator Dennis Allen wants to run their scheme, they got to find their type of players. And Tremaine Edmunds did not fit didn't fit their program going forward.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you, talking some Bears and their busy week. We'll talk about the rest of the NFL in a bit here. But, to your point, Sid, the Dalman thing, look, he was two-time All-Pac-12 over at Stanford, and his dad was a high school football coach, and I'm sure he saw some of the stuff that, some of the wear and tear, the mental side of football and such. So, if there was Carmen Matali, who does a great job covering the Bears for 6-7 this score. I think she kind of said, I'm saying this. I'm not verbatim here. I'm paraphrasing what she said, but that there were talks about it right after the season, that he was mentally and physically exhausted. He played all 17 games last year. Okay, cool. Look, he went to Stanford. I think he was a two-time academic All-American. So he's a smart guy. I'm sure he knows what he wants to do after football. So look, good luck to him. Hopefully everything's good with him, mentally. And look, I think it is what it is with him. So now, for DJ Moore is concerned, look, we've never been worried about this for like the last couple of years. So I'm not surprised. The Buffalo, look, I'm sure Josh Allen kind of sort of, I don't want to say spearheaded it, but I'm sure he probably put it out there that, hey, look, I need a number one wide receiver. You get your number one wide receiver, DJ Moore. The second round pick, look, that's good. I don't think the Bears fleeced the Bills like some people are saying. I think it's just, look, it was going to take that much. If you want to get a top receiver, you're going to have to, maybe get a second or a third rounder. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. That's how the market is for a top receiver. Now, the Edmunds thing, look, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when the rumors came out. They weren't going to be able to get him. They probably tried to trade him. They couldn't. They save money. He can go somewhere else and be a very productive linebacker when he's healthy. So, yeah. So, look, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. And like we said, the Bears were in not financial hell, but they're a little bit over the cap once the season ended. So GM Ryan Poles has a tough decision to make. I didn't think there was going to be this tough, but out just looking at it, LaKeena, looking at the moves that's been made thus far, it hasn't really been that tough. DJ Moore, I thought that he was going to be capped at least through next year. You were going to try again because he's on the back half of that 4-year, $110 million contract. But as you said, with the second round pick that they received from Buffalo, that was a great trade. The other two moves, well, the Drew Dalman move, as you said, it came into surprise us as pundits and fans, but the Tremaine Edmunds move was not a surprise. DJ Moore being traded was not a surprise. Now, like I said, the move to Buffalo was a surprise, but you got a second round pick back in. Buffalo takes in all of that salary remaining on his contract. That is a great win for the Chicago Bears. Now, let's move into what do you think that the Chicago Bears were planning to do? Do you think this sets up a charge move to get Max Crosby? Does this set themselves up to get Trey Henderson for a year on a proven deal? Or do you think they still should continue to build through the draft, at least through this year, and try to get an impact player at this time next year?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though. Like I said, I don't think it's not. Look, if you heard Adam Schefter from ESPN say yesterday when he was on with Waddle and Sylvie, he said that he would be shocked if the Bears got Crosby because they only got 5 draft picks, right now with that DJ Moore trade. And look, if the Raiders are staying pat that they want 2 first rounders, you don't have the draft capital. You may have the money now to pay, to taking that contract, but you don't have the draft capital. And let's be honest, despite what some people may say, you're not a Max Crosby away from winning the Super Bowl. You're not. And look, I think that there's going to be the Cowboys. I know that he posted something and he said that, Cowboys, there was some music going on in the background. People said, oh, he's going to Dallas. But now Baltimore has kind of, according to Diana Receiver from The Athletic, who does a great job covering the NFL, she has been for years. The Ravens could be a player in this. So I think the Bears should just move on, see if you can get some O-line help because now you need O-line help now. And I know there are a couple of guys that they thinking about getting. Now there was one player that I'm sure that I saw earlier. Let me see if I can get his name real quick. But yeah, I mean, look, you're gonna need that more than anything. And of course, Tyler Biadasz, of course, he played for the Commanders, so a solid center. He goes to the Chargers instead on a 3-year, $30 million deal. So of course, these deals can't be made official till next week when the new league year starts. But that's a guy that they thought that the Bears thought they were going to get. Now he's off the board. So where do you go now? Now that Trey Henderson, I mean, you could probably get him at a prove-it deal because he's had a lot of injury issues. He hasn't played a full season the last couple of years. So, I'm sure he's going to command a lot of money. But yeah, I think you've got other needs for the Bears instead of trying to get, look, Crosby will be good, but you're not going to be able to get him, not with the price that they want.
Now, in terms of the offensive line, I think Linderbaum from Baltimore is a very interesting player to look at. Also, let's not forget about McGovern from the Buffalo Bills. He's another name that could be out there to fill that hole for that Drew Dalman vacated for that Bears offensive line from last year. So I think those are 2 guys that Ryan Poles should take a look at. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I think if you're Ryan Poles, you'll let the market dictate what happens to Trey Henderson. If Trey Henderson thinks that he's not going to get the deal that he thinks he deserves, I would take a 1-1 deal if you're Chicago because it's not going to hurt you in the cap that much because Trey Henderson would have been quote unquote humbled by the lack of money that they perceivably thought he was going to get out in the open market if the storyline plays out that way. I would do a 1-1 deal with Trey Henderson. Now, if that doesn't happen, like I said, the Max Crosby ship, I think I agree with you. I think that's sailed now. If you don't do a 1-1 deal with Trey Henderson at your price, continue to build through the draft, and we'll go through some of the price lists as the weeks go on leading up to the draft, who I think the Bears should take a look at. But as I said at the top, if Henderson or Max Crosby, you cannot afford them at their price, continue to build through the draft, and then try again to swing big next year.
Could there some big names be on the move? We'll have that, coming on next right after break. We're going to talk some more NFL And don't worry, folks, we haven't forgotten about the Bulls, or maybe you want us to. I don't know. But they did. The Tank A Thon took a hit in Phoenix as they beat the Suns. So we'll talk about that. And another milestone for LeBron, and a good week for some teams, bad week for others. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. More NFL and NBA talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to our Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID.
You follow LaKeena McGee. You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
And if you want to continue this discussion on the Chicago Bears and the NFL, we'll get into the NBA and the Bulls as well for this half hour. You have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you better hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Lots of movement here in the NFL. You gotta love the NFL, even though it's not even the NFL season. The season's over for over a month, almost a month now, but still a lot of news. You know, let's talk. Let's start here, Sid. Let's go a little bit into northwest in Minnesota. According to Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, the Vikings are doing some simple restructuring on the contracts of stars. Justin Jefferson, Jetta, and also left tackle Christian Darrisaw to clear some cap space. You know what? Not a big surprise. They've already had to let go of a couple of guys as well. I'm talking about the Vikings. So unfortunately, this doesn't come as a bit of a shock. They kind of put all their eggs. They thought they were going to contend last year, but unfortunately, JJ McCarthy, of course, couldn't stay healthy and wasn't productive. So now, of course, now they got to do a lot of moving pieces for the Vikings.
Yeah, they're trying to reshuffle their roster, in particular on the defensive side of the ball. Yet Brian Flores is back as a D coordinator. You got to get younger at certain positions. They need a new running back. As you mentioned, they released Aaron Jones. Won't be official until next week with the new league year begins. So they got to get younger at those positions. You got to get impact players as well. But the number one question for that Vikings team is, will J.J. McCarthy stay healthy to be their number one quarterback? That's the $1 million question out there right now. And who are the Vikings going to sign as their backup? I think that's going to be key as well to push J.J. McCarthy. I'm not saying take his job outright in training camp, but to give him that extra lift to see what he's made of. Because if they don't have that, it's going to be another disastrous year for the Vikings.
We've heard rumors, of course, about Anthony Richardson. We talked about that ad nauseum last week. But speaking of a veteran QB, well, one guy just got released, from the Cardinals, and there are rumors that maybe he might be a good fit for the Vikings, and that is one Kyler Murray. Now, of course, he hasn't played since week 5 of last season. They're betting odds, if you will, say that he has emerged. The Vikings have emerged a favorite to sign him. What do you think?
That'll be a big upgrade for the Vikings, but here's 2 questions that I have for Kyler Murray. It depends on where he goes, whether it's Minnesota or somewhere else. Number one, does he get it? Or what I mean by that is he really committed to playing football? Remember those stories that we heard a couple of years ago when Arizona signed him to that big deal? He's I'm just paraphrasing here. He was worried about, he spent more time on video games than in the playbook. He got into it with ex-head coach Cliff Kingsbury. So there's been stories out there about Kyler Murray. My first question is he all in? And number 2, can he be consistent, which means staying healthy, first of all? If you can do those 2 things, I think he'll be a great fit for the Vikings or someone else. But if the Vikings choose to go after him, that's going to be a very huge upgrade at the QB's position.
Well, here's another veteran QB that's going to be on the market. Geno Smith from the Raiders. They've been aggressively shopping him, but no surprise, they're going to, at the start of the new league year next week, they will be releasing him. So how about him as potential, maybe somebody for the Vikings?
Call me crazy, LaKeena. Nice story of Geno Smith a couple years ago, coming back throwing for 30 touchdowns and leading Seattle to the playoffs, back to the playoffs a couple years ago. But the way that we saw him at the end of last year with the Las Vegas Raiders, he's a career backup once again, especially at his age. I believe he's in his early 30s now. So could he start as a replacement for a couple of games? Yes. Is he a starting quarterback? In my opinion, no, those days are done.
Could be interesting to see where he lands. Now, the Rams have been very busy this week. Of course, they trade for Trent McDuffie, the people of that secondary, because they definitely need it. Now, speaking of their secondary, one of the bright spots in that secondary, they've signed Cam Curl to a new deal to keep him in LA. He gets a 3-year, $36 million with a max value of $39 million. So a busy week for the Rams, and of course they beef up that secondary, which they really need.
Yeah, as we talked about at the end of the playoffs this past year on the show, you saw what they got away with against the Bears in that divisional playoff win. They did end up picking up Caleb Williams in overtime in that game, but their secondary was starting to get cooked in that second half, and then you saw them against the Seattle Seahawks in that following week in the NFC Championship game. Not good at all. So that was a great upgrade. But here's the thing, LaKeena, I think I brought this up about a month ago on the show. I believe the Rams still have 2 first-round picks, correct? If that's true, they could be in play for Max Crosby too. So that could be another sleeper team.
Yeah, I think I heard that too from a couple of folks that they are less need. You know how less need is with those first-round picks. So and we'll see what happens there. Now they also re-signed their star tight end Tyler Higbee to a new 2-year deal, so they will reward him as well. Let's see here, some other couple other news here. Like I said, these are a lot of these moves here. Of course, the Houston signs Neil Hunter to a 1-year deal. So they beefing up that front seven there with that. So they definitely need that. They also sign offensive tackle Trent Brown to a 1-year deal. So that's they definitely need that to protect CJ Stroud. So a couple other moves and very busy. Now the Falcons are releasing former Bear wide receiver. He's been in Atlanta for the last few years, Darnell Mooney. They free up $18.4 million. So do you see Mooney perhaps maybe going somewhere to contribute?
I heard Mark Carmen, friend of the show from CHGO Bears, he was talking about how the Bears should bring him back. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Darnell Mooney was a very productive player with the Falcons a couple years ago. I know he struggled with injuries last year. He was very productive while he was here, but I think he'll go to a team that's ready to win a championship, and maybe I'm sure he still thinks that he's a top 3 wide receiver. Where they land him, I don't know, but I'm sure he's going to land on a team that's on the way up and with a very good quarterback. I'm not opposed to the idea of Darnell Mooney coming back here to the Bears, but I think that's highly unlikely.
Oh boy, gonna be interesting to see what happens there. Now the Chargers have released the veteran guard Mekhi Becton. Also, the Patriots, of course, Super Bowl runners-up, they released Stephon Diggs. They made that announcement a couple of days ago. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands. I think Diggs might be an interesting. I don't know. I'm trying to think like who would be a good fit for him, because I think that there are some teams that probably could definitely use him. And I wonder there's going to be a whole lot of reshuffling with a lot of these teams, even with the big, capping over $300 million. Some teams may not want to take a chance at getting getting that money. So I think I'm trying to think what would be a good spot for him to go to.
That's $1 million question, because he's in his early 30s, I believe now, and there's a lot of mileage on those tires. Maybe the Chargers. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. Maybe Kansas City, they usually take flyers on. Anyway, you should take flyers on those guys for 1 or 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So I'll say Kansas City. Who knows? Maybe I doubt it. Philly, they trying to trade AJ Brown, but who else? There's not too many teams out there that's going to acquire by his services. There'll be some, but not as many as he thinks. So like I say, he's past his prime now, and he's going to the other side of his career. And we all know, especially in the NFL, when you get past the age of 30, you're a senior citizen.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here now. I think for me, and I think before we move on, I think you just mentioned it too, because I was going to bring it up, but thank you for bringing it up. AJ Brown. Now, of course, there have been some. I think they were there for the. I think there were a couple of teams. I think they were going to trade it for Max Crosby, but I guess when they realized that it was going to take 2 first-rounders, the Eagles said no, and they moved on. So, do you think AJ Brown goes anywhere?
Whew. That's a good question. I think for right now, just like the Raiders are saying with Max Crosby right now, I will say no. But I think if Philadelphia gets the deal that they want, i.e. draft picks, multiple first-round draft picks, and maybe a future second or third-round pick, I think A.J. Brown goes. But if they don't get the deal of what they think they deserve, like the Las Vegas Raiders and Crosby right now, he's going to stay put for at least another year.
Now, a couple more names before we move on. Trey Hendrickson, of course, he'll be released by the Bengals, and I know the Bears. I know a lot of Bears fans say, hey, why not do a prove-it deal with him? Could be interesting to see, but yeah, I mean, that's. Do you take a chance on him for money, because he hasn't played a full season in the last couple of years? So does he? Yeah. Plus, he's a little bit older, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I say. If Trey Hendrickson goes out on the market, and if he doesn't like what the NFL is, the rest of the teams in the NFL are offering him, I would do a 1-year prove-it deal with the Bears, because we all know that all contracts, NFL contracts, are not fully guaranteed anyway. So you can put in some incentives for him if he makes this amount of money, if he has these amount of tackles, these amount of sacks, or things along that line. I would take a chance on him for 1 year. He's going to get paid, but you don't have his base salary. Maybe he'll make 20 to 25 million. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe he'll make 20 to 25 million with some incentives. And if he proves himself, maybe you can bring him back for another year or try to work out a longer term deal. That's what I would do.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens there and what teams we'll see. The Bears could try to perhaps get on that prove it deal now. The Patriots are re-signing Tommy DeVito to a 2-year deal, and Rashawn Gary, who is the edge rusher for the Packers, announced that his time in Green Bay is over. He was due about $19.5 million next season, but with no guarantee money, so they take that money off the books for Green Bay. So a couple of news there, but there are going to be a lot of names that are going to be floating around here, of course. So we'll be talking about this for like the next few days. So there's going to be a whole lot by the time we reconvene on Monday. So there might be a whole bunch of names that might be on the move. They might be released. They might be restructuring their deals. So a lot of moving parts in the NFL, and it's not even the season. Go figure.
Yeah, I know we got to move on to the NBA, but one more name I wanted to bring up. I saw this, I believe it was on CBS Sports Network the other day, LaKeena. Assuming that Kevin Byard does not come back, bringing it back here to the Bears. Assuming that Kevin Byard doesn't come back, one of the analysts slash experts said that Reed Blankenship, the safety for Philadelphia, would not be a bad idea to bring him to the Bears. I would not be opposed to that either.
Yeah, he's been to a couple of Pro Bowls. He has a ring. Although I was listening to our buddies, Layla Rahimi, Mark Grody, of course, Fox Chicago's Cassie Carlson. They were all talking about all the moves in the NFL, and I think it was our buddy Grody, who's all friends of the show, by the way. It was Grody who said that why not just bring Byard back on a 2-year deal? But again, he's going to want a whole lot of money, and you do get that 33.1 million. But if you're Ryan Poles, do you want to do that? Bring in someone who's he's on the other side there. He's still very productive. He's leading that defense, but Blankenship's what about like 27 or something like that? He's been to a couple of Pro Bowls. He has a Super Bowl ring. So what do you do if you're? I think he would be a good fit, because you don't have any safeties right now, if you're the Bears, so he would be a good fit. So what do you do if it does it between those two guys?
Yeah, like I said, Blankenship's a few years younger than Kevin Byard. Not that much younger, but I said about 4 or 5 years younger. I would take a chance on him. We all know that in free agency, the players most of the time go to the highest bidder. If you're the Bears, you really don't want to overspend on that position. That position is very important. But now with the retirement of Drew Dalman, of course, they still need an edge rusher and they need a defensive tackle. I think one of those needs will be addressed in free agency. The other issues are in the draft. But Reed Blankenship is a highly respected safety around the league, and if you can get him at your own price, then it'll be a big upgrade. I'm not saying Kevin Byard stinks or anything like that. He was very good, and he was very important to those young guys in that locker room, so that cannot be overstated enough. But if you can upgrade there with Reed Blankenship over Kevin Byard, I'm not opposed to it. It stinks for Kevin Byard, obviously, but Reed Blankenship would help the Bears because he's a few years younger. I think he could bring the same impact that Kevin Byard did.
Oh, you know what? I forgot this name. He might be released in the next couple of days, but now not really for the Bears because he might be a little bit older. But what about for all the NFL? How about Cam Jordan for the Saints? He had 10.5 sacks last year, even though the Saints are. I'm sure he's going to want to go someplace because remember he got drafted the year after they won the Super Bowl. So I'm sure he's going to want to go. I'm sure he's going to want to go to a place where he can contend for a ring.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be here in Chicago, like you said. I can see a team like Philadelphia, San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say maybe the Rams, but I doubt the Rams. Maybe the Chiefs, but they're in a financial salary cap crunch, so I don't think Kansas City is there. Will be the spot. Maybe the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know. Maybe Baltimore. Who knows? But he has spots.
Yeah, he'll have his choice. I know he loves it there. I know he's revered there, down there in New Orleans. But look, I'm sure he's going to want to go someplace where you'll have a chance at the rings, and all those teams you name all will have chances with rings next year, and you can get him at a good price, or maybe they'll try to trade him, perhaps maybe you can probably get a third rounder for him. But I know that's another name that folks should look out for. We'll be hearing a lot more in the next few days before the new league year starts next week.
All right, and we'll keep our eyes and ears to the ground. What's going on around the National Football League in our future shows right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Speaking of Second City Sports, you're listening to us and watching us right now here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena, and we're jumping in SHIP into the NBA since we have a little bit over 10 minutes left in this segment, LaKeena. The tank ship took another major U-Haul turn last night as the Chicago Bulls defeated the Phoenix Suns by the score of 105-103. The Bulls improved their record to 26-37 on the year. Colin Sexton, one of many new faces for the Chicago Bulls via the trade deadline last month. He had 30 points, and the Bulls held off the Phoenix Suns for their second victory in 3 games following an 11-game losing streak. And Trey Jones had a key steal that wrapped up the victory for Chicago last night.
Yeah, our buddy Nick King, who of course, the friend of the show, he's from CBS 3. He has out there in Phoenix. He was at that game last night. Like I was trying to tease him, like, well, thanks a lot, Nick. The Bulls can't even freaking take right. Thanks a lot. Jalen Green had 12 points. He was 5 for 12 from the field. Now, Devin Booker won his first games back. He did have 27 points. Grayson Allen had 21 off the bench for the Suns. 30 points for Colin Sexton, which is a season high for him. And Trey Jones had 21 points. Like you said, that key steal. All right, 105, 103. All right, this might be the only game the Bulls will win in this West Coast trip. So, of course, they stay close with the defending champs on Tuesday, I should say. That of course, that was just a very weird game to watch. But again, look, I think this is kind of where you're at if you're the Bulls at this point of the season. You got Sacramento on Sunday, Golden State. We'll see if Steph will be back by then. You got both the LA teams to finish up that West Coast trip. They'll probably win that game against Sacramento on Sunday.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's it. Yep, Sacramento, and that's it. They got their own issues.
Yeah,
yep.
So they'll probably lose the last 4, but
speaking of that Bulls game last night, shout out to our other friends of the show from CHGO Bulls, Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson. They were both there on a road trip for fans last night, and they got to witness a very good game last night for the Chicago Bulls. So shout out to them as well. But LaKeena, I don't know about you. Maybe I'm not gonna say this loss will hurt Phoenix in the long run. Like you said, they just got Devin Booker back. We'll see how strong they can finish this season because right now they're 11 games above 500. No, 8 games above 500 rather at 35-27. But maybe this loss will hurt them at the end of the year if they don't finish strong. But as far as Chicago is concerned, it's a nice confidence win, a booster win for the roster because let's be honest, no player goes out there wanting to lose. That comes from the front office and whatnot. But a shout out to those guys for the Bulls. At least they're playing hard, and I'll give them that, even though they're not very good up and down their roster.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's all you can ask for at this point, right? I mean, you don't want them, and of course, that the NBA is making a big deal about taking. So, like, okay, fine, you want to put in effort, fine, whatever. Just as long as you lose, as some Bulls fans will say. So, that's how that game was a couple of days ago against OKC. But but that's kind of the quintessential game right there. But like I said, they'll play Sacramento. They'll probably win that game too on Sunday. But now the rest of it, we won't go game by game. We'll just do the important games. Yeah, so we'll do the important games real quick. Congrats to LeBron James, another career milestone. He passes Kareem for the most field goals made. Now, he did hurt his elbow in the last seconds of that game against Denver, but a couple of big shots by Jokic, who had another triple-double as the Nuggets beat the Lakers.
Yeah, I was watching ESPN the other day. Tim McManus was talking about Jokic. He's been inching off and on so far this year. We all know he's a sneaky physical guy. We didn't talk about this on our show on Monday, but he got into it with Lou Dort over the last weekend. Of course, he got into it with Laurie Marketing the other day. That's not good right now. And Eric Gordon, who was his protector, using air quotes here, he's been out over 50 games so far this year. And as I said before, they got to have all the key guys healthy to potentially make a long playoff run because I said at the beginning of the year in October, if the different Nuggets are healthy come playoff time, they can still be dangerous in the West. But for a confidence standpoint, they need to pick up these wins. And from a team standpoint, they need to get some key guys healthy.
and keep them healthy too. So I think that's really another thing with them now. Speaking of the Lakers, of course, they had to come back to beat the Pelicans. So your typical game there, but a couple of big shots by LeBron and Luka. All right, cool. That's from for that. But also to Ace Bailey, shout out to him. He had 32 points, a season high, as career high, I should say, as Utah beat Washington. Also, Julia Reese had 18 points as well off the bench. That's Angel Reese's little brother, for those of you who are scoring at home. So congrats to him. Minnesota had a nice week this week. They beat Memphis on Tuesday. They beat Toronto. A really good Toronto squad last night. They pulled away from them 115-107 and had 41 points in that game against Memphis and 22 here in the game last night against the Raptors.
Yeah, a couple other scores to pass along to you from yesterday. The Timberwolves beat the Raptors by 8. As I said, Minnesota will be dangerous come playoff time. Don't be surprised if they're in the Western Conference Finals. The San Antonio Spurs got their lick back. They beat the Pistons by 15 last night. The Spurs could make a surprise run, in the Western Conference playoffs. Mitch Johnson, I think, is your hands down coach of the year. He's the leader in the clubhouse, in my opinion. And on Wednesday, Giannis Antetokounmpo made his return to the lineup for Milwaukee, but the Atlanta Hawks had other ideas for his return. They beat the Bucks by 18, 131-113.
Alexander Walker had 23 points for them in that win for the Hawks, and they've been playing pretty well, since trading Trae Young. So we'll see what happens there. The Clippers, same on Wednesday, the Clippers with a nice win against the Pacers. Going back to last night, Golden State, of course, still no Steph, but they get a nice win in overtime against Houston. Brandon Konozewski had 26 points for the ties of season high, and they're playing okay without Steph, but Steph's got to come back if Golden State wants to try to advance.
Yeah, and they got to get Kristaps Porzingis healthy too. So that's another big factor there. Who they traded for at the trade deadline. So the Warriors trying to keep those pieces together, but like you said, they got to stay healthy. I want before we get to this weekend's action. Tuesday, LaKeena, the Spurs and 76ers, the NBA on NBC throwback telecast. We both said our piece about Peter Vesey and Myra Shah not being a part of that broadcast. NBC wants to do it a yearly thing going forward in the remainder of the contract that they have with the NBA. Now, the actual game after the first quarter was trash, but I want to get your honest grade on the telecast from the pregame show to the halftime and then to Jim Gray's courtside interview after the game. What was your letter grade for the entire broadcast from start to finish?
I give it a solid B+. I think that the intro that kind of went back to that old old school, like early 2000s intro. So I thought that was really cool. I wish they would just keep that and just do today's players and such. They kind of mix it up there. But I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be very interesting to see if they keep this. But it was a really great broadcast, even though the game sucked. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But that was a really I kind of went back to the old school, from the late 90s, early 2000s of that one. That was really cool.
Yeah, so I give it a C plus B minus. Like I said, the reason I give it a minus is because it wasn't really their fault. But like I said, the actual game after the first quarter sucked. San Antonio just put on a clinic. I know Philadelphia was out without Paul George. He's still serving that 25-game suspension for the illegal use of PEDs. Of course, Joel Embiid, what a surprise, out again. So, but San Antonio put on a clean. But for the actual broadcast, I give it a B minus C plus. Hannah Storm was great. Isaiah Thomas, PJ Carlesmo, they were all good at pregame, halftime. And of course, Bob Costas did the play-by-play along with Doug Collins and Mike Fratello. Mike Fratello was the man next to Marv for many years. But a three-man booth with those three, they sounded well together. I know all of them are older and all that, but they Doug Collins is still sharp. And Mike Fratello, I think he still does some games part-time for the LA Clippers, but
yes,
all three of them sounded great. Of course, it wasn't much to call after the second quarter, but for what it was, I thought it was very good.
Yeah, I mean, the game itself just wasn't very good, like you said. I think we kind of ran away. The second quarter, the Spurs outscored the Sixers like 18 points or something like that. So it was kind of all she wrote after that. But but the podcast itself was really good. So but yeah, I mean, I'll give, like you said, I'll give it a solid B plus. I think it was kind of great to see. Like I said, they're going all out for the nostalgia. They're still mixing it with with elements for 2026, which you got to. So, but yeah, still pretty solid telecast, even though the game sucks.
All right, here's your schedule for the NBA for this weekend, starting with tonight's games Friday. The first game in the ESPN Friday night doubleheader will take place in Boston, where the Celtics will host Cooper Fleck if he plays in the Dallas Mavericks. Jason Tatum will make his return to the lineup. This will be the first game he plays since Game 5 of last year's Knicks-Celtics playoff series in the second round. So Jason Tatum, with a torn ACL, 10 months of removed from his surgery, he'll make his 2026 debut tonight for Boston. Other games are as follows for tonight. Charlotte, who's been on the road, they won game over 500. They'll host the Miami Heat in a sneaky good game. Portland will take their act to Houston. The New York Knicks and the Denver Nuggets will get it on from the Mile High City at 8 o'clock. That should be another great one. New Orleans will face the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix should bounce back after that ugly loss against Chicago last night. And to wrap up the action for Friday night, it's the Indiana Pacers at the Los Angeles Lakers. Your rematch from 26 years ago, LaKeena.
Oh, goody. I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure Pacer fans are so pissed about that NBA Finals, but well, that's neither here nor there. But I'm sure that he will probably be refreshing because they played Brooklyn twice this week. They won both those matches. I'm sure it's gonna be refreshing to play somebody else for a change. I'm sure Coach Bo will be happy with that as well. Your games for tomorrow, Saturday. Your Prime Video Saturday afternoon game of the week. You got Minnesota hosting Orlando. That might be a sneaky good game. Brooklyn and Detroit. Philadelphia and Atlanta, that's going to be on NBA TV. The Clippers continue their kind of like semi-East Coast trip as they face Memphis, Utah, and Milwaukee. And your ABC game of the week or Saturday night, depending if Steph plays. I doubt Steph will play tomorrow night, but we'll see as Golden State goes to OKC to face the defending champs Thunder.
Yeah, schedule for Sunday looks like this. It starts out with an ABC Sunday afternoon doubleheader. First game will be the Celtics against the Cavaliers, followed by the New York Knicks at the Los Angeles Lakers. Other games are as follows for Sunday. Detroit will visit Miami. Dallas will visit Toronto. Washington will face the Pelicans in another Tank Bowl game. The Magic and the Bucks. Houston visits San Antonio in your Sunday night game of the week for NBC and Peacock. Lenny Kravitz will be doing the theme song for that one. Indiana will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll visit Portland. Of course, we mentioned the Bulls and the Sacramento Kings, another Tank A Thon game. And on Peacock and NBCSN to wrap up Sunday, Charlotte will visit Phoenix. And it's another sneaky good contest. Initial schedule for this weekend in the NBA.
The Knicks and the Lakers are always interesting with those two play each other. So that should be another good one to complete that chapter of that long-standing rivalry for Sunday. So that should be a good one.
Yeah, the rematch of the 72 finals.
Yep. Yep, exactly. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. We got Christine Mann from KXRB joining us to talk some sports media news and some shenanigans too, as the Blackhawks have made some moves. Of course, their trade, the NHL trade deadline is today. They've already been very busy. But coming up next, we're going to talk some baseball as the World Baseball Classic starts. And also, of course, our spring training continues. And also, March Madness is upon us as conference tournaments are beginning and the big boys are finishing up their seasons as well. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. A little college hoops and baseball talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. As we kick off hour number 2 of this Friday Funk Edition, I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and again at IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, discussing baseball and college basketball, the men's side as well for this half hour. You have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you as we kick off hour number 2, discussing baseball.
Well, your quick WBC update, and I know some people, most of you guys, for those of you who do care about it, but Ohtani hit a grand slam for Japan as a so but and such, but yeah, that's all. That's the only update I have for the World Baseball Classic. This week, I guess, has been kind of a mixed bag for both the Chicago teams and spring trades. Like I said, some of the top players are over, playing for their respective countries in the WBC. The White Sox, I mean, they did sign, they did pick up their option for this season. Of course, Miguel Vargas. Okay, cool. They lost to Cleveland last night in spring training play, and as far as the Cubs, they beat the Diamondbacks. Colin Ray had a nice showing. I think he had like 4 strikeouts there in that game for the Cubs. So at the very least, you know what, if you're look, you're kind of holding down the fort for both these teams while your top players are overseas. But not a bad, I guess, a bad last couple of days if you're either one of these teams.
Yeah, I'll start out with the White Sox first. Their bats have been heating up this spring training. You're talking about Miguel Vargas, Edgar Carroll could be in the starting to make it. Colson Montgomery just struggled a little bit, but he's going to eventually figure it out. Like I said, also too, is all about the pitching for the White Sox. Shane Smith, it looks like he may be your opening day starter. Anthony Kay, the left-hander they signed out of the Korean baseball organization, looks like he may become a factor as well. But it's all about competition for those infield spots and maybe a couple of outfield spots as well at center field and right field. So we'll see what Will Venable and Chris Getz have in mind for as far as making out the rest of this roster for the White Sox. I think we see the projected lineup, especially when Murakami gets back from the World Baseball Classic. This offense has potential to be dangerous in the AL Central. I'm not probably anybody playoff tickets on the South Side or anything like that, but the way that the bats have been heating up this spring training is a very good, encouraging side, because until the second half of the year last year, LaKeena, this White Sox offense lacked the run support that the starting pitcher was given, especially April, early May. Now, on the flip side, with the Chicago Cubs, mentioned about Colin Ray, is important for those guys to get their starts and get their working, because we all know that injuries are going to happen, and especially in baseball to pitchers. It's important, like guys like him, get their work and be consistent, because you never know when they're going to be called upon if any major injuries occur.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want to have the kind of start that he had yesterday for the Cubs. So I think that's really kind of like the thing here with all this stuff. Like I said, with all the regular guys being regular guys, most of them being gone in the World Baseball Classic. I think this is sort of the thing that you want and such. But yeah, I mean, like I know Burke didn't have a best showing yesterday, I should say. But I think this is what you want. I know Shota gave another 2 home runs a couple of days ago. But look, I think if you're at that point where it's just I guess better that this stuff happens, I guess, during spring training, they can work out the kinks and such, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I'm kind of like in that realm of once we get to, once everyone comes back and gets to their back to respective teams to start the, for the regular season, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, this should be an interesting season for both teams for various reasons.
ESPN came out with an article a couple of days ago putting out their top 100 baseball players right now. Of course, the White Sox have 0 players that are on this list right now. Your Chicago Cubs, LaKeena, have 6, including Dansby Swanson, who checks in at number 82. Newly acquired via free agency, Alex Bregman at 61. And of course, Pete Crow Armstrong checks in at number 22.
Yeah, I mean, none of this is really shocking. I mean, I kind of feel like you having 6 in the top 100 is never, it's never a bad thing. But that just shows that the respect that I think this was voted on by some writers, but also too, I guess, the ESPN experts, about 2 dozen ESPN baseball experts. So that just shows you, that just shows you the respect that this team has and what they expect from this season. So I'm not that surprised by that 6 Cubs made the top 100 on this list.
Okay, we won't go through the whole list because we're time constrained, but I'll give you guys the top 10. Ronald Acuna Jr., right fielder for the Atlanta Braves. He's been injured the last 2 years, but we all expect him to be healthy this year. Number 9, your guy Julio Rodriguez for the Seattle Mariners. Number 8, former White Sox player Garrett Crochet from the Boston Red Sox. He finished in the top 3 in Cy Young voting last year in the American League. Number 7, Cal Raleigh from the Seattle Mariners. Of course, the catcher who hit over 60 home runs last year, and finished number 2 behind Aaron Judge in the AL MVP race. Number 6, Paul Skeens, the starting pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Number 5, Juan Soto of the New York Mets. Number 4, Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers for now. Number 3, Bobby Witt Jr., shortstop of the Kansas City Royals. Number 2, Aaron Judge, and of course, finish out the top spot. What a surprise! Shohei Ohtani, designated hitter, starting pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, I have no issue with this list nor the order. I think Shota's the number 1 guy in all of baseball right now. He can pitch, he can hit, small ball, long ball, it doesn't matter. Even when he's hurt, I mean, he's still very productive. So it's fine. I think that the whole top 10, I think you could definitely make that you can make a case for. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think that the top 10 is fine where it's at.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Let's retransition over to the college basketball side of things. Let's go to the Big Ten first, LaKeena. The Illinois Fighting Illini, they took care of business the other night against the Oregon Ducks. Their regular season wraps up on Sunday at Maryland. And of course, here in Chicago around this time next week, the Big Ten tournament begins. I would say I would be lying to you if I said I would be lying to you if I said I was surprised at how the Illini finished out the year. But I'm not surprised by this at all. Of course, they had 2 ugly losses previously at UCLA and then at home a week ago tonight against the Michigan Wolverines, but they did what they had to do. I'm talking about the Illini. They took care of Oregon, beating them by 36 points, 80-54. Andre Stojakovic led the way for the Illini with 21 points, including 7 of 12 shooting overall, and he also added 12 rebounds. And Keaton Wagler dropped in with 5 assists.
Yeah, they did what they're supposed to against an Oregon squad that's not, that kind of having a down year. So I didn't really pay attention to this game very much. So I figured Illinois would take care of business. So yeah, it's whatever, it's fine.
All right, any other games from the college basketball world that
a nice win for TCU as they beat Texas Tech. Xavier Edmunds had 20 points. I think this definitely put Jamie Dixon's guys right there on the other side of the bubble. They were kind of right there in the middle of that bubble, but I think this win, a very impressive win. Yeah, the Red Raiders don't have JT Tapa, but even still, they went on the road. They beat the Red Raiders. That's not an easy place to play down there in Lubbock. So they did their thing, and now I think they've officially punched their ticket. Florida, they coached the NCAA championship outright for the first time in I think about a dozen years. They took care of business against Mississippi State. UCLA might have punched their ticket too officially. They beat Nebraska pretty handily. Trent Perry had 20 points. Mick Cronin didn't scrawl after the game, so I guess that's a good thing. UVA with a nice bounce back win against Wake Forest. Arizona State, I guess, I think Bobby Hurley might have saved his job. They beat Kansas. Kansas, what the heck's going on with down over there in Lawrence?
I'm really worried about them right now.
Georgia beat Alabama, a little bit of an upset there. St. John's beat Georgetown. Tennessee took care of South Carolina in that one as well. Going into Wednesday's matchups, Purdue, CJ Cox, I think, might have saved their season. They were down for most of their game against Northwestern on Wednesday, and he hit a couple of big shots. I think he scored, like their last 10 points, including a couple of big threes that sealed that win for Purdue against Northwestern. Arkansas, they beat Texas. Miami with a nice win over SMU. All right. Indiana and Minnesota, they're trying to get into the right into that bubble. We'll see if they can get it going here. Excuse me. Ohio State took care of business against Penn State. That game was dominant from jump. Wisconsin beat Maryland. Villanova, even though they lost their leading scorer, one of their leading scorers for the year, they took care of DePaul 76-57. Still think DePaul's back, folks? All right. I'm just saying, all these people that say, DePaul's back. Well, it just be Villanova who lost their lead scorer for the year. So, that hopefully will thank you for my TED Talk. Stanford with a nice win over Notre Dame. Let's go to yesterday. Michigan with a nice win against Iowa. I saw this game. This was on the NBC Sports Network. It was back and forth for a little bit. Iowa, look, they stayed in it for as long as they could. But Joel Lesborg for Michigan had other ideas. He had 16 points leading the way for Michigan, and also to Morez Johnson Jr. He had 16 points with a couple of big rebounds and a couple of big steals from Roddy Gale Jr. I should say, and to seal that win for Michigan against Iowa.
Yeah, and speaking of the Big Ten, Michigan State stays on top. They beat Rutgers last night, 91 to 87. As we say every year, LaKeena, Tom Izzo has his guys prepped for this time of year. They had some big wins, especially as of late over the last month, of course, beating Illinois the way they did it in overtime. They handled Purdue, and now they take care of business against Rutgers last night. I know Michigan, as you mentioned, they bounced back last night with a huge win over Iowa, but in my opinion, right now, is Michigan State and everybody else can go and play. Michigan is a close, I'm using air quotes here, close second in the Big Ten, but everybody else there are supposed to be contenders I'm really worried about. We talked about Illinois on our last show. They're going to finish the regular season strong. I think the Big Ten tournament will be important for them around this time next week here in Chicago, but I'm really worried about Purdue right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially like you said, they woke up in that second half. Yeah, you play Northwestern, you can't mess around, and the thing you just go cakewalk in there with the victory. They got players on the other side too. They're not as talented as you are, but you can't just sleepwalk around, especially this time you expect to get a victory. You got to go out and earn it. And Purdue's been very inconsistent of that as of late in the last month, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, CJ Clutch, I think that they literally saved their season. And I think that's really what they needed. They needed that win against Northwestern, because if they had lost that game, I mean, that they would have, that would have been that would have been rough, to say the least. So I think that win was really the desperate leading down. Speaking of teams that you should be worried about, I think Kansas should be another team that folks should be a little bit worried about. The Darren Peterson situation. I mean, it's not going to go away. I know Bill Self's been trying, whatever hair he has left on his head. I know he just wants to just tear it all out at this point, with all the talk going on here now. But also congrats to Arizona. They win the regular season Big 12 championship outright for the first time since joining the conference. So, congrats to Tommy Floyd and his guys. They definitely earned that one, being Iowa State on Monday. But I think Kansas. Look, I think Kansas is one of those teams where they could win. They could probably have to get to the Final Four, but also they could end up losing in the second round. That's just that's been the kind of season it's been for Kansas.
Yeah, that's like you said. It's not just been that kind of year for Kansas, but it's been that kind of year of college basketball. We just talked about Purdue. We mentioned Illinois here a little bit. With all that, Illinois will still take that big step. Maybe they won't want to say get and selling in the big tournament here in Chicago next week. But we all talked about Illinois possibly being a Final Four team, but they lost in ugly fashion to UCLA on the road in overtime a couple of weeks ago. They did happen the week before at Michigan State after blowing a late 9-point lead, and of course you laid a big fat egg 1 week ago tonight against Michigan. So Illinois, they could still be one of those teams too, but right now they're not giving you that confidence that they could go on a consistent run in March. Now going back to the Big 12, I like Jaden Bradley for Arizona, but they're also that kid that wears number 3, LaKeena. He's been playing huge over the last month. You saw what he did against BYU a couple weeks ago. You saw what he did against Houston a couple of Saturdays ago. He's really becoming that, in my opinion, that second banana to Jaden Bradley's number 1 for Arizona. I really like that team. And you saw what they did against Kansas last week. So, Arizona's at the top of the class, obviously in that Big 12. And I think that's going to be another team that people should consider for as far as winning the whole thing.
Yeah, Anthony Del Orso, as you're talking about, 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had 20. Yeah, he had eight big points, a couple of big threes to kind of just seal that win for Arizona against Iowa State. And look, Cole Peter, it's back. It's going to take him a while. I know he only scored 4 points in that game, but it's going to take him a few games to kind of get going. I'm sure once it gets to the Big 12 tournament, I'm sure he'll get into it because he hasn't played in about a month now. These bubble teams are interesting. Like I said, I think TCU probably played their way in. I think Ohio State. That Ohio State Indiana game on Sunday to finish off the Big Ten regular season. That's
an elimination game in my opinion.
That's going to be huge because I think whoever wins that game, you'll put their ticket in. But I think if whoever loses, they're going to probably got to win a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament in Chicago next week, because if not, one of them is going to be left out. Now, I know people want to make a big deal about Auburn. Now, Auburn, I know Bruce Pearl. I know that's his son Stevens is coaching there now. I know, of course, he's going to lobby for him. But the Miami of Ohio discussion is fascinating. We talked about it a little bit. Now they do play Ohio University tonight. We'll talk about the schedule in a bit here. But I think the big debate is that should they lose? I mean, look, do they get it if they don't win the back tournaments? Look, they don't have any quad 1 wins. Like we talked about on Monday. Look, like I said,
that's the problem.
Yeah, that St. Joe squad back in 05 with Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, and Pat Carroll and the rest of that group. They had Gonzaga. They beat Gonzaga. I think they were in the top 10. They had a couple of other quad 1 wins as well. Yeah, they lost to Xavier. They got their bus kicked by Xavier. The Xavier. I remember that Xavier team. They got hot at the right time. I think they won 8. They had won 8 in a row or something like that. But I mean, I just don't think they deserve to get a shot. I know people say, well, why should they not get in? At a 13, 14, 15 loss Auburn team. I'm just throwing it out there. Should get in, but that's just how the way it is in college hoops. Don't give the committee a reason to leave you. And look, people are saying Belmont should probably get in. They're losing to Drake right now in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament as we speak. They're trailing by 10 right now. So let's not call a spade here, folks.
Yeah, if you're those middle of the road teams that are trying to make a late season run, you have to win your games that are in front of you. And in the beginning of the year, where you have these preseason tournaments, and you have to run into some of these big time teams that are in the middle of the road teams that are in their the Power 5 conferences. You got you got to take care of business, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in situations like this, and praying that the committee finds a way to get you in, even though there's rumors talking about expanding the tournament again, which is stupid in my opinion. But I'll say that talking point for another day. But if you these mid-major schools, or those even the lower teams like Ohio State, Indiana, in these Power Five conferences, you got your games that play well late, and you got to show that you mean business in these conference tournaments, because that's going to go a long way.
Now, some breaking news here in college hoops, from Shams Charania. He dropped a Shams bomb. Caleb Wilson for North Carolina hurt his right thumb on Thursday in a non-contact drill and has undergone season-ending surgery. He'll be cleared for the pre-draft process when he'll compete. I know that he's basically one and done. That's the long rumor. But his season's over with, so a big loss for Hubert Davis and his piece over at North Carolina.
Yeah, they were playing very well since his injury a couple of weeks ago, but now since they lost him for the year and perhaps for his career, since he's going to jump into the NBA, I want to see how Hubert Davis shovels his lineup. Will he make another minor adjustment when they start the ACC tournament coming up here next week? Because Caleb Wilson, like I say, he can expand his game. He's a very good scorer. He can shoot from the outside, but I like the way he maneuvers inside, drawing defenders to him to the basket. So he's very mobile, and that's a huge loss for Carolina. That could have been one of my other, not going to say sleeper teams, but that they were going to be one of my teams to contend for the national championship. Maybe they can still get it done, but it's definitely going to be tough without a dynamic scorer like him.
Yeah, guys like Seth Trimble, Elijah Davis, Luke Magovic, who had 20 points off the bench in that game on Wednesday against Clemson. Yeah, those guys got to step up now that we know that Caleb Wilson, Tuesday, I should say, that they're going to have to step up with Caleb Wilson now done for the year. So, that's a big loss for North Carolina.
Yeah. Going back to the ACC, LaKeena, we haven't talked about this conference as much this year, outside just North Carolina just now. But what do you think about the University of Miami? I saw a couple of clips of their last game the other day. I'm not going to say they're going to make a long run, but I would not sleep on them either. I know they're known as a football school. I know they make competitive in basketball for almost the last decade or so. But what do you think about the chances of the University of Miami?
Yeah, I really like that squad. I know Jai Lewis has done a great job. That's a great job coaching that squad. He's John Lucas's kid and John Lucas III's younger brother. So he's been to the tournament. He's been to I think he's been to a Final Four too, if I'm not mistaken. I think he played for I believe I'm trying to think. I think he played for that George Mason squad that made it all the way to the Final Four some years back. So he knows what it takes to win, and I really like what he's done with that Miami squad. I know I know the old coach Jim Larinaga. He kind of I think with the landscape of college hoops changing, he couldn't really handle it. I think he admitted that. But look, you beat North Carolina. You played a really solid schedule. I think they're right, so they'll get in, but yeah, I think he's done a really great job with that. I think they have a lot of veteran guys. I believe a lot of basically from the transfer portal. They got a nice win against SMU last night. So I think they really are, such a great, talented group of guys here. Malik Renault, you guys don't know too much about him. He's actually one of the top forwards in the A10. He's a double guy. I think he's had like 11 or 12 doubles already this year. So he's definitely been one of the keys to that Miami squad doing as well as they are. I think they could definitely be one of those sleepers, but again, it's all about experience, and a lot of those guys, they're going to be coming to the tournament for the first time. So, but yeah, it could be a sticky team to watch.
Speaking of conference tournaments, we'll give you the schedule for the Missouri Valley Conference if I could get it up on my screen here. You mentioned about Drake at Belmont going on right now. Is Drake leading Belmont 66-55, almost halfway through the second half. The other schedule are as follows, especially here locally. At 2:30, we'll have UIC versus Murray State. Shout out Jay Hood. He's down there in St. Louis right now. He'll be calling the game for UIC. At 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Bradley will face Valparaiso. And at 8:30, Northern Iowa will play Illinois State.
All right, we'll see if we can get a couple of those Illinois squads to advance to the semifinals of the conference tournament. St. John's and Seton Hall back to the big boys for a second that they're finished up their regular seasons. Seton Hall, I think they're right there on the bubble, but I think if you're Shaheen Holloway, I think you want to, if you try to find a way to beat St. John's, perhaps that could definitely help you with your bubble chances.
Oh yeah.
Miami, of course, like I said earlier, they face Ohio. That's going to be on ESPN2. So if you guys want to check it out for the first time, you can. We'll see if they can stay undefeated. Now, some interesting ones for Saturday, tomorrow, I should say. Houston and OK State. That's going to be at 11 a.m. on CBS. Virginia Tech and Virginia. I think you definitely want to try to see if you can beat Virginia. If you're Virginia Tech, you're right there on the bubble as well. That's going to be on the CW network. WGN 9s, those are scoring at home. Arkansas and Mizzou at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Butler and DePaul on FS1. Xavier and Villanova on TNT and True TV. UConn, they could wrap up the Big East title as they face Marquette on Fox. Arizona State and Iowa State on FS1. Speaking of Kansas, we'll see if they can get back on track against K-State. That's going to be on at 1 o'clock on CBS over at Fog Allen. Miami, the aforementioned Miami, they face Louisville at 1 o'clock on ESPNU. Vandy and Tennessee. Vandy will hopefully, hoping to try to get their get back as Tennessee beat them a few weeks ago in their home court. They'll try to turn the favor as if they go to, they face them in Knoxville on ESPN at 1.
Florida will take on Kentucky, and that's at 3 o'clock on ESPN. Purdue will host Wisconsin. That's at 3 o'clock on CBS. Number 25, St. Louis, the Billikens will take on George Mason at the same time on USA Network. This is a game I'll be looking forward to. Hopefully, this is a competitive game, even though Caleb Wilson will not be there. Number 17, North Carolina will take on number 1 Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. That's at 5:30 on ESPN. At 7:30, we'll have Auburn versus Alabama on ESPN. At 9:30 on ESPN, we'll have number 10 Texas Tech versus BYU. And at 10 o'clock on ESPN2, we have number 2 Arizona versus Colorado.
Now, I'm sure Duke wants their get back now that they know that Caleb Wilson is going to be done for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cam Boozer and the gang there, I think they're going to want to pounce, especially now that they know that Wilson's done for the year. Even though they're correct that they did beat Duke did lose to North Carolina without him, but I think you want to get that get back, especially if you still want to have a shot for that number 1 overall seed if you're Duke.
Yeah. For Sunday, I know the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game will be on CBS on Sunday. That's I believe at 1 o'clock Chicago time. The rest of your Sunday schedule for top 25 college basketball looks like this. Number 11 Illinois will take on Maryland. That's at 2 o'clock on Fox. Michigan State will travel to Michigan to face the Wolverines. That's at 3:30 on CBS. And of course, Ann Arbor, I should say. They're playing Ann Arbor. That's at 3:30 on CBS. And at 4 o'clock on Fox, Iowa will take on number 9 Nebraska. They're scheduled for men's college basketball.
Well, and some of your conference tournaments, the smaller ones, of course, you're talking about the Missouri Valley, like the Ohio Valley, the MAC, the MA, that's MAAC, and some of the other conferences will be, officially punching their tickets sometime this weekend. So make sure you guys check those games out all weekend long on ESPN's family of networks.
All right, LaKeena's official 2-2 timeout on here on Second City Sports on our Friday Funk Edition. When we return, it's Christine the Queen Manika in her weekly shenanigans. We'll get into her thoughts on the Bears, the Bulls. We'll touch in a little of the NHL and baseball and a whole lot more other stuff. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You're listening and watching Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So, you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the subjects we discussed thus far on the show where you want to discuss about the Bears, baseball, the sorry-ass Chicago Bulls, college basketball, so much more. You have any last minute questions or comments on those subjects, please hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
So let's not waste any more time, Sid. We got a lot to discuss with her on a whole different, variety of subjects. So let's get our girl, your weekend girl from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. Hey, Christine.
Hello, guys.
Yay!
How are ya?
We're good. How are you?
Happy weekend to you too.
I'm freezing, and even though it's like in the 60s, it's supposed to be the 60s here, but
You're right.
Well, yeah, we'll soldier on. Now now in our group chat that we have, look, we had our thoughts about some of the moves the Bears made. So what say you about some of these Bears moves?
It's honestly not surprising. The biggest one is definitely name escapes my mind, the center that is deciding to retire. I hope Drew's okay. I hope everything is okay with him at the moment, because that's a big decision for a 27-year-old, pretty much in the prime of his career, and deciding to hang it up. That was definitely an unexpected news coming out of Hallis Hall, but I said it even in the middle of the season. I figured that if the Bears were going to trade anybody, it would be DJ Moore, and that's exactly what happened. I think he's going to be a good asset for the Bills. I think he's going to be a good target for Josh Allen too, just because if you haven't noticed, Josh Allen doesn't really have that many targets, unlike Caleb Williams, who has a list of people he could target when he's out there. So I think it's going to be a good welcome change for the Bills and for DJ Moore as well. Edmunds, I kind of saw that one happening too. He was injured for part of the second half of the season and didn't really have the best showing in the playoffs either. So once they let him go to free agency and released him, it was one of those where I'm like, yeah, that's not totally surprising.
Now, with the Bears under the salary cap at $32 million, do you think this is it for the Bears to talk about, well, this sets them up to go get Max Crosby or go get Trey Hendrickson free agency wise from Cincinnati. Of course, if they acquire Max Crosby, it'll have to be via Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati. You can acquire him because he's a free agent. Does this set up for the foregone conclusion of Max Crosby, or do you think the Bears will go in a totally different direction?
Yeah, it definitely sets up for Hendrickson and Max Crosby, I think. Now, I will say Crosby's value is going up a little bit because the bidding is starting amongst the teams. So that's something to watch out for. Hendrickson, I don't think he's totally out of the question yet. I think that would be a smart move for the Bears to consider him as well. But Max Crosby, I think he's the ideal guy, right? He's the one that everybody feels when they're on the opposite side of him on the line. And he's already made a pretty strong connection with Caleb Williams, having Caleb on his podcast and then having, Caleb Williams pick him up personally from the airport at O'Hare, if you've seen that photo go around. So there's definitely a relationship there. Could it grow into being an official Chicago Bear? It could. It just all depends on the value. And I think right now the Raiders are wanting 2 first-round picks is what I'm hearing so far for Max Crosby. So I think it's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but the stakes are a little bit higher now for him.
Now, like I said, Schefter, of course, Adam Schefter said that he would be surprised if the Bears do pick up Crosby. On an off chance that the Bears don't get him, you've got, of course, the Ravens, the Cowboys, even the Rams. They've already made a couple trades as well so far. So outside the Bears, where do you think Max Crosby could be the best fit for?
Oh yeah, like when it comes to stock value, that's exactly what I was saying. There's more teams that want him, and now they're putting a little incentive to do that for him. So I could see, honestly, Baltimore. That would be my first ideal choice. Possibly the Rams, maybe, especially since Stafford is staying another year. It could be a chance for him to get a ring within his first year being a Ram. So that's kind of an enticing one. Dallas, I still think, is trying to figure things out, especially after getting rid of Micah Parsons. They probably feel like Max Crosby can fill that void that they need at the moment. So I definitely think the top teams in the running have to be Baltimore and the Rams.
Speaking of teams being in the running, we all said this when he got hurt early in the year. Kyler Murray, now former quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. There's a rumor out there that maybe Minnesota may be interested in his services. I still have a sneaky feeling that the New York Jets may take a look at him. Where do you see Kyler Murray's next stop in his NFL career?
His couch, playing video games. That's where I see his next stop being. That was mean. I'm sorry. I don't think that would be the best fit for Minnesota, just because if you want J.J. McCarthy to grow a little bit, you don't want a veteran like Kyler Murray showing him the ropes. In fact, well, you know what? Yeah, you can do that, because then you can show him what not to do when it comes to being a quarterback. It's in my opinion, just not the best example. The Jets, just because they've done some crazy decisions within the last 3-4 years, yeah, I could see them saying, I want Kyler Murray. 100% I can see that happening for them. It's hard to, there's not really, well, now Geno Smith is released too today. So that's another wild card in there. So I don't know. Those are quarterbacks where I don't know where they would fit best at the moment, just because they have their own set of history issues. Geno, when he's hot, and when he's not, you could see that he's not. So yeah, it's kind of it's a toss-up for me. I think no one has really mentioned anything about Kansas City yet, because Mahomes is still hurt. Like, he's still rehabbing and hoping to get back maybe October, maybe November. So they got to find someone to at least get them in contention for the postseason. So maybe Geno would be one of those guys that could fit in the system. I don't know. Again, he's kind of a mixed bag. He's good when he's good, and he's not, and he's not. So those are going to be interesting quarterbacks to see where they're going to end up.
Now, another intriguing, and we talked about it just before we broke after the first hour, Cam Jordan for the Saints. He might be on the move. So where do you think he lands?
Man, this is just such a random free agency year. There's not really any big standouts out there where he's going to end up. Oh, boy. Arizona? They need to rebuild their team somehow, right?
Well, yeah. Well, remember but I think he's going to want to go into a contender. So, because remember, he got the Saints drafted at the year after they won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, he's going to want to go. Yeah, he's going to want to go to a contender.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's all free agencies want. They want to go to the contender, but really, they're going to go where the money follows them. So, if money talks, then why not Arizona? But if he wants to stay kind of in the region and in the area, and I say kind of lightly, maybe I don't think this would happen because they're in the same conference. Tampa, it's not a possibility, I don't think, just because again they're in the same conference. But maybe the Steelers, if they want to explore that option too. I don't know. I'm spitballing here because again, these free agents this year, it's tough. It really is.
You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago's Friday Funk Edition. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. That's Christine. And she's here with us with her weekly thoughts and TED Talks and shenanigans. Christine, let's turn over to baseball. Of course, the World Baseball Classic kicked off a couple of days ago. I'll start with our White Sox. Mooney Murakami is playing for Team Japan. Backup infielder Curtis Mead is playing for Australia, I believe. And, of course, catcher Kyle Teal is playing for Team Italy. Are you excited about the World Baseball Classic? And what are your thoughts on that? And what are your early thoughts about the White Sox, the rest of the White Sox that are left back in spring training? Because their bats have been heating up as of late.
Yeah, to be honest, with the World Classic, I've only seen little clips here and there. I saw that the other day, Clayton Kershaw got a standing ovation and a lot of cheers when he went out, just for a little bit, just to be a relief picture. But even that got everybody excited. So it's great to see him at least do it one more time, for not just for the Dodger fans, but for Team USA too, for World Baseball. So I think that's really cool. White Sox bats are hot. I mean, that's what seems to happen during spring training often. And then we all end up getting disappointed come mid-season, come July probably. So I think it's a good sign. Maybe this could be a better year. Last year was better than the losingest season. So you can only go up.
The positive talk. Like I like the optimism.
Positive talk. Positive talk.
Well, keep with the baseball news, but on the sports media side, of course, ABC made it official on Wednesday. They've hired Jason Minetti as their top MLB announcer, and not a big shocker. No, he'll be the top guy there. Of course, he leaves Fox Sports, so it'll be interesting to see after the baseball season what other sports will he be doing. I'm sure he'll probably doing some college hoops too next season. Once that rolls around, they're going to be doing their Sunday night baseball coverage and such. And also, the Tigers actually congratulated him and said, "Okay, cool. Was that so hard, Jerry?
Was that so hard? Was that so hard?
Come on." But I think this is a well-deserved hire for him. He's one of the best national announcers and such. I think he's definitely the guy that you can sell that, especially with the new NBC package on for the MLB. He's a perfect guy to be the face.
No, absolutely, it's well-deserved. That's so funny. Was that so hard, Jerry Jones? Was that so hard to say good luck?
Cool. He's like, okay, cool. Congrats.
Cool. Great.
Oh, Reinsdorf. Nope. But here's the thing. Speaking of Jason Benetti, he's still going to continue his regular season duties. I'm talking about for baseball and calling games for the Detroit Tigers. And the Detroit Tigers, as many teams that were on the Bally Sports / FanDuel Sports Network. Their games will be produced by Major League Baseball, most of the teams. But the Detroit Tigers have a new regional sports network called Detroit Sportsnet. And Jason Benet will be heading up that coverage for the Detroit Tigers. Most of their announcers will still stay the same, but they're trying to get the Detroit Red Wings, or as I call Dead Wings on this show, in the Detroit Pistons on that network the Detroit Tigers have some moving parts right now as far as they're forming their own network, because as you guys know, half the league lost their contracts to FanDuel Sports Network, and most of those teams that lost their contracts through the FanDuel Sports Network, they'll have their games produced by Major League Baseball, with the exception of the Atlanta Braves, who started their own TV network a couple weeks ago. I think we talked about it on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yep. What do you think, Christine?
Yeah, I think sorry, Sid, you kind of cut it out, so I really wasn't getting the full question and the explanation.
Yeah, Sid, I think it's.
I was just talking about Jason Benet will still do his duties for a new. Okay, can you guys still hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just wrapping up by saying that Jason Benet will still keep his regular season duties for the Detroit Tigers on the new sports network called the Detroit Sportsnet. Of course, those teams that lost their contracts through FanDuel Sports Network, with the exception of Detroit and the Atlanta Braves, those other teams, which is now half the league, they'll have their games produced by Major League Baseball. I think the only team as of this live broadcast that hasn't had a sort of a quote-unquote TV deal yet is the Anaheim Angels. I think, Christine, you guys should ask Chris about that. You may have to look through other avenues to watch the Angels this year.
Yeah, I may have to. I'll have to ask him when he comes back. Yeah, to see what he's gonna do this season.
Tell him to get on the White Sox bandwagon.
Yeah, he's 25% on it. That comes with the marriage license.
Gotcha. See, there you go. Gotcha. Now, some more news that came down the pike on Wednesday from the sports media side. It's that time of year, folks. March Madness on the men's side. Anyway, they have announced their game broadcast teams for this upcoming tournament. The top two stay the same. Of course, Eagle, Bill Raftery, Grant Hill, and Tracy Wilson. That's going to be your top team to do the regional final and the Final Four national championship. Brian Anderson, Jim Jackson, and Ali LaForce, your number 2 team. Now, this third team, of course, got some changes. Kevin Harlan, Sam Van Gundy, Laura Shahidi are not going to be joined by Robbie Hummel. He'll be a part of that squad that will be calling regional finals games. There's other team, Andrew Catalan, Steve Lapis, and Evan Washburn. Our buddy Spiro Diaz from the show, of course, will be back with James Monarkel and John Rothstein. Brendan Gaudin takes over for Lisa Byington. He'll be teamed with Chris Weber and Andy Katz. Also, Tom McCarthy, Candace Parker, Dan Bonner, and AJ Ross for a new team there. Brad Nessler, Wally Zerbiak, and Jared Greenberg. That's going to be another team, new team this year. This year also, I forgot I got to get this thing up here. Now, of course, we talked about this for the first four. The second game, the first four matchup on Tuesday will feature Brian Anderson, Charles Barkley, Dick Vitale, and Jenny Dell. Also, Dell will be teamed up with Jim Spanarkel and Jordan Kent. Now, if you remember who his dad is the wonderful former Oregon coach Eddie Kent, who, of course, led Oregon to Elite Eight and a couple Sweet 16 appearances. So, and he's actually a really great broadcaster for CBS Sports Network. So he's getting the chance to call the first 4 games this year. And as such, and also too with the I know it's a lot, but a lot to absorb. But yeah, but with the studio, of course, Nate Burrows will take over for Ernie Johnson for the early rounds. In New York City, he'll share the duties with Adam Zucker. Adam Lefko will be in the Atlanta studios with Bruce Pearl, Jamal Mashburn, Seth Davis, and Jalen Rose. That should be an interesting tandem down there in Atlanta. New York, you got Clark Kellogg, Charles Barkley, Katie Smith, and Renee Montgomery. She's new to the floor this year. So, guys, thoughts? I know it was a lot to absorb, but thoughts, please.
I think you meant to say it was madness to absorb there, LaKeena. It's definitely going to be a good tournament. I think it's it's pretty up in the air who's going to get the championship this year too, which makes it's exciting.
Yeah, was some of those new names you mixing them with the new blood with the old blood. But you know me, LaKeena, I don't like those first 4 games. Now you have a second one, and the real tournament starts on that Thursday. And still, in my opinion, but that second tournament game, first foreign game, as you said, Dick Vitale and Charles Barkley. How many viewers are they on the get back to those televisions and those streaming services for them to listen? Because those who will have. They had the it factor personalities, and they're gonna have a lot of stories. They better hope that it's not a blowout, because if it is, anything will happen between those two.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's going to be like the battle of the 11 seeds. So I'll just say, we'll say like I'll say TCU and Auburn or something like that. I'm just spitballing teams, but it's gonna be the battle of the 11 seeds with that second game. So. But yeah. I mean, they if it does, God forbid, it is a blowout. Yeah, hope those two can go on for they'll go to like literally weeks. So I'm sure they'll be just fine. And I think hopefully Brian Anderson is ready to kind of like steer everything in the keep in the everything in the row. But it should be a fun one regardless.
Yep. Christina, I wanted to ask you before we move on. Who do you think will be your top contenders to take home the men's college basketball championship? Is it Kansas? Can they rebound? Do you think it's our team here in our home state, Illinois? Is it Michigan State? Who do you think will have a chance to take home the title?
I think Nebraska and Iowa State are teams to look out for this year. I wouldn't sleep on either of them.
Yeah, gonna be, like I said, it's really just gonna depend on like the matchups. I think that's really gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. Is there anything else sports media wise that we want to talk about? Oh, well, speaking of the Warner Bros. Discovery, of course, they made it official earlier this week, and David Ellison, who's the CEO for Paramount, says that they're ready to, because if you guys remember the NFL TV deal, they can opt out. The NFL can opt out, but they also, like Sid said earlier this week, they want to get those new contracts going, make it official before the start of this upcoming season, and they're ready to go. So, do you guys think that NFL will continue their relationship with CBS?
I can definitely see that happening, especially with their new additions coming up. I can see it totally continuing.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, because with anything with these networks is the only way they make money is off of live events, and live events is live sports. And so CBS, I know they had the highest ratings for the NFL in the last few years. Same with Fox. And so call me crazy, but the stranger things have happened, but I cannot see the NFL discontinuing their relationship with CBS. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it right now.
Well, I think the money that the NFL makes is going to be from the TV. I know they want to put streaming. We talked about the 5 game package that they want to do with the likes of Netflix and Prime and them, but they know that the real moneymaker is going to be the linear TV deals, even though the cord cutting and such. But I really think that they want to keep the relationship with Fox and CBS and of course even ESPN now that the NFL network have merged. So I think all 3 of them are going to be well within intact. So I'm sure it's going to be fine, and it'll be officially announced before the summer.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. That's Christine. As we wrap up our Friday Fun edition of the program, I know we have a couple of minutes left before we have to close up shop for the weekend. LaKeena, you have some news about the Blackhawks. I know the NHL trade deadline, for those of you that are watching live, at 1:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. The trade deadline is about to come to a close in the next 45 seconds or so. Counting those of you that are watching live, but those of you watching on replay, obviously it's over and done with. So, LaKeena, you have some news about the Blackhawks trade a couple of big veterans. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Nick Foligno, who was a captain for the last 5 or 6 years, he's going to join his brother Marcus in Minnesota, clearing $4.5 million because of course the Wild will take that money and such. So yeah, we talked about before we started, Sid. I mean, he's one of those guys that he was very cordial. Of course, he knew that he wasn't going to win. They weren't going to win a championship here. This is sort of like just to kind of keep everything and also he was a big mentor for Connor Bedard. So they get future considerations from Minnesota. They're going to take that contract. Also, Derek Pulley, they'll get Derek Pulley from the Rangers as they send Aiden Thompson. So there was one more veteran that got traded. I gotta because this was coming up fast and furious, folks, for the Blackhawks the last couple of days. But I think, hold on, let me see here. Yeah, but
I know Connor Murphy got traded.
Yeah, Connor Murphy. I forgot where he got. He got traded as well. So yeah, they've been kind of cleaning house. I would say the Blackhawks have. I know Jason Dickinson. He got traded as well. I believe to the Oilers of Colton Dock. They get a first-round pick and Andrew Machapan from the Oilers. No Connor McDavid, folks. No McDavid. They were trying to make fun. So, we'll get Connor McDavid from the Oilers. No, that wasn't going to happen, folks. But yeah, so yeah, they're cleaning up cap space. They're getting draft picks. I think if you're Kyle Davidson, I think you should be pretty good at what the Blackhawks did these last couple weeks.
Anybody else think that guy looks like Nick Sirianni? Or is that just me?
I mean, a little bit, maybe within like the jawline, I guess.
I mean, that picture that they posted when he got traded, I'm like, Nick Sirianni plays hockey? What? That was the first thing that came to my head.
I think I remember him saying that. I think I remember Foligno said that he gets that a lot. I think he said he does get that a lot, that he gets Sirianni.
Yeah, I see it.
They do. Yeah, and he has 3 kids, so I guess you can see.
There you go.
I can see why they probably get. Yeah, that is pretty funny though. So, but finish your thoughts, Sid.
Yeah, I think it's two factors here. I think one is important for this young Blackhawks team to finish up strong. Do I think they'll have enough to make a push toward the playoff spot? No, but give first-year head coach Jeff Blashill credit for getting all he can out of these young guys. Connor Bedard with 25-plus goals this year and 30-plus assists after having an injury-played second-year campaign. And number 2, you mentioned about Kyle Davidson, the GM for the Hawks. This is going to be an important summer for him. Can he get those make a difference kind of veterans to help push you along this court so you can make that solid playoff push for 2026-27?
Going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Now, anything else, guys, before we disperse?
I don't think so.
Sid, you got anything?
I'm going to try to enjoy this short-term warm weather while we can.
Yeah, that's really going to be like the only 2 days of 6 season, but it's going to be raining most of the day. So both the rest of the day. So, stay dry, folks.
Yep. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can find me at CM Manika at _ KXRB. I totally forgot my my handle there for a second. I'll say it again: C Manika _ KXRB on X.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it happens. It happens. I think
it happens.
Everybody messes up their handles every once in a while. Of course, you can catch Second City Sports on the replays anytime, anywhere on the Sports Social College Facebook and YouTube channels. It's all right there for you. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fuzz. I know they're going to have a lot to talk about those Bears trades and moves tomorrow. So make sure you guys check that out. And if you can't do it live, no worries. You can check it anytime, anywhere on the Sports Social College Facebook YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, folks. So enjoy all the madness that'll be starting today. And I think Belmont's still losing. I'm trying to get an update, but I know the games are. I think all the Missouri Valley games, the quarterfinal games are on marquee. So you guys should check that out. I think the semifinals and will be on CBS Sports. Of course, the finals will be on the big CBS network. So guys, check that out as well. There's gonna be some tickets punch. So the World Baseball Classic, if you're into that, baseball, the NBA, of course. I know women's, their conference tournaments are in full swing too. So I know the SEC, they're gonna be We'll see if South Carolina or Texas can win it. Or South Carolina and Dawn Staley if she wins again over there. But look, enjoy all the sports, and we'll keep you updated on the NFL frenzy that's going to be going on. I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that's going to be coming out in the next few days before the league year starts next week. But for Sid and Christine, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, and we'll see you guys next week.
Holla!